me one time and emceed some.
Like an unwed mother's home or something? I bet it was that.
I think it was for, or still is for mentally challenged.
So what's up with her?
I don't think so. I think she just had a bad day and she didn't want to be here. Just wanted to go sleep. And they're old enough to know that.
Yeah, I think so.
Project. Good. And we're the kind of women that would prefer to be hanging out in the party. So, that's why it took a little bit longer to start. So thank you all for your patience. Thanks for sitting in the sunshine. But working out here and living out here in the sunset, we can't complain about this sunshine. So I'm going to take just a real brief minute to tell you about who we are and what. Edgewood, people have walked in the door and said, what was this before it was Edgewood? That's the question we always get. This has always been Edgewood. Edgewood, in fact, was founded in 1851 by Mrs. Haight and Mrs. Waller. So, and it was where UCSF Extension is. The reason those two streets are named Haight and Waller Street is for the two women that started the orphanage during the gold rush. So Edgewood is probably the oldest institution in San Francisco. And we have been around through the gold rush, through the earthquake, through the Depression, through World War I, through World War II, et cetera, being the safety net underneath children and families in San Francisco. And are thrilled to be part of this very groundbreaking collaborative. About 20 years ago, this whole campus was just filled with kids ages 6 to 12 for about the past 20 years. And about 2.5 years ago, our board sat together and said, is this the right thing for us to be doing? 6 to 12, as we call latency age children. And we had, at this point, almost become such a niche provider. We were serving kids from all over the state, but we weren't a well-known agency in San Francisco anymore. The probation department, Department of Human Services, were sending their kids to Fresno, we're sending their kids all over, out of county. We did a strategic plan, and our board took the very courageous step to say, we want to retool our mission. We want to be available only to San Francisco. We want to be part of San Francisco, and we're going to take some very, very drastic steps to retool what we're doing. So in the past 18 months, we've opened up a high school. We now have a lower-level adolescent cottage, and we have adolescents living throughout the campus in the higher-level cottages.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I want to begin by thanking Edgewood for joining in this partnership. I was in San Diego when the RFP came out, and we were looking for a partner, and Ken Epstein, who is the Director of Services Programs here, probably got your title a little wrong, called me, and I knew at that moment that we were having a conversation that would be part of history. And it has been, and it will be for the future. This program will not only serve kids here in San Francisco, but will be the model for the country, and if not, the world. How do you find the words when you're talking about history? How do you find the words when you're talking about saving children's lives? How do you find the words when a city who thinks of itself and is cutting-edge, sophisticated, progressive, has not done its job when it comes to children? When we've had children dying on the streets of San Francisco for decades and nobody cared. When we have children arrested and jailed for their own sexual abuse, their own rape, and we normalize it as prostitution and we call them the perpetrators. And we provide little or no services, as Nancy said. What do you say when we let the perpetrators go? When we normalize their behavior as just normal men seeking out normal sex with children under the age of 18, sometimes as young in San Francisco as 9 years old? Well, what we can say today is we really are that progressive city. We really are that cutting edge city. We really are a city that you can say ideas flow from. We are on the leading edge. We are a city where children are no longer blamed for their own victimization. We are a city where children are not being killed and thrown in dumpsters. We're a city that we can be proud of right now. It's hard, it's so difficult to find the words for that. It's so difficult because this is something that has to do with our hearts. It has to do with the soul of San Francisco. It has to do with passion. And it has to do with basic instincts that many people around the country and around the world have forgotten. And that those basic instincts are, we grow into adults and it's our job to protect children. Bottom line, end of story. And today in San Francisco, we have a house where children are safe. We have a home. It's a safe house. It's a safe home in school. We have a school because of the direction and the leadership of Supervisor Amiano. We have a task force that started in 2001 because of Kamala Harris. Somehow, having it part of her mission and her passion to create a city where these children are protected, where we end the commercial sexual exploitation of children. We have this program because Barbara Garcia held a house rush. She just came to the table and she said, there's going to be a house no matter what. And she held the house for us, and she held the commitment continually that this house was going to open. And we have this house, and we have this safe home in school because of Dr. Hernandez at the San Francisco Foundation, and because of Department of Children, Youth, and Family. And we really have the house because the mayor came forward along with all of our other partners at the end and said, what is it going to take to get this thing off the ground? Because we had the house, we had the licensing, we had the school redecorated, renovated, we had everything. Everybody came with so much faith to this project, and so much hope to this project, and so much trust to this project. And when the mayor walked in, and Kamala talked to the mayor, and then everyone, we saw who all was here, and Supervisor Amiano and his commitment to kids in school and good education and safe streets for kids. We got the house, the home was born. And as a child who was exploited through prostitution myself, and when you say all those years, I think 20 years ago I was in jail. 20 years ago I was sleeping in boxes in San Francisco. 20 years ago I was being arrested over and over again. And that was at the long end of being first a child who was exploited and nobody paid attention. Well, today we pay attention in San Francisco. Today we know that these children are not throwaways, they're not tossaways, they're not doomed for pine boxes anymore with Jane Doe written on them. That we really have decided that there are not people that are on the edge of society that deserve to be on the edge of society, and that we should have shame and stigma and find reasons to hurt them and blame them and keep them on the edges and not bring them into our fold. And today we're bringing them into the family of San Francisco, and I'm so proud of everybody that worked on this. And I'm so proud of the staff of both Edgewood and Sage. Could everyone stand up from Edgewood? Because I guarantee you that everybody that stood up had something to do with this house. Everybody had a piece of, had their thumb in the pie. You know, everybody had somewhere in their heart a place for these children, and knowing that these children have lives that are worth saving, and lives that are worth saving, and that that there's a human rights end to this, is that they have had their human rights taken away from them over and over again, and it's our responsibility to give that back. And I thank everybody that's here and everybody that couldn't be here today that is so impassioned and so committed to this project. And we're almost full. The house is almost full. We're going to start working on expanding the house soon. We're going to start working on expanding the house, and we're going to be working, Mayor Newsom? Mayor Newsom? I think we have an appointment tomorrow. That's what that 15 minutes is. And I know that people are going to step up to the plate, but it's not just about housing, and it's not just about treatment. It's about prevention. And District Attorney Harris has worked so hard on legislation that deals with prevention, and she's prosecuting those guys. She has some guys coming down the pipelines right now that are not being prosecuted for prostitution, but they're being prosecuted under our new law, AB 3042, for sexual abuse and statutory rape. And the prize that they get, along with that, is they get extra time. And that's as a result of District Attorney's leadership. So with that, and I'd like to end with thanking all of the young women who have gone through all of our programs and taught us how to do it right. Because we listen. We listen to these young women, and they have so much knowledge, so much courage, and so much leadership. And in fact, they've led us into knowing how to create a program that works for them. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Remarkable crowd for all coming out here today. This important day. As they say, God's delays are not God's denials. I know this has taken a long time. This has been delayed, but indeed, all of us collectively were not denied in putting together this model. And as Nancy knows, and as Norma knows better than anyone, we love things that we can lay claim to having been the first out front on so many important issues, that tend to tip those issues and have a real impact beyond the borders of the city and county of San Francisco. I think once again, here's a day where we have a lot to celebrate, not only about what we endeavored to do or what we all endeavored to do in the past, not only about the present in terms of the announcement, but about the future to be proud of as it relates to the example of this institution. You know, we're marrying two of the best organizations, at least from my perspective, in San Francisco, Edgewood and Sage. These are two of the great brands in San Francisco because they deliver. It's not just rhetoric. You know, they deliver on the promise. They have an impact, a direct and substantive and meaningful impact, a long-term impact on human beings in their lives. They change their narratives. They change their stories from one of abuse, from one of hopelessness to hopefulness. I'm so proud of both these organizations and proud of the wisdom of Kamala Harris, our district attorney, the wisdom of the former president of the Board of Supervisors, Tom Amiano, for the directors, the various departments and agencies that are here today. And appropriately, Norma, you're right about Barbara Garcia and Sandra Hernandez, who were there from day one to make sure that this vision can be fulfilled. I think it's significant. At the same time, it's insufficient. We need to do more. And there's no doubt in my mind, and you didn't just need to repeat it twice because we've been repeating it in the discussions around the budget of why we couldn't do more this year. 6 beds is good. 6 beds is great when you compare others. But again, we don't want to compare that low bar. We want to set a new bar and a new standard. And that's why we're absolutely committed. And I guess I could say with the Treasurer of San Francisco, Jose Cisneros here, who knows the finances of the city as well or better than anybody, that it's my commitment of working with Supervisor Amiano, working with the collective board of supervisors, working with the district attorney, putting our creative hats on, and we go out and re-resource more dollars to at least double the beds in the next 12 months. There's no reason. There's no reason we can't do that. And I say that not to patronize because we're here at an announcement, but we've given that a lot of thought. And I know Trent Rohr just dumped his head and started shaking it. He's going to have to give it a little more thought. But Trent has remarkable capacity to figure out how to find additional resources, be they not our own, but state, federal, and yes, private resources, since we collectively have a responsibility, particularly to 12 and 17-year-olds that have faced the horrors of kind of abuse that these individuals and children have faced. So it's in that spirit of renewal and expectation, and that spirit of thanks and the recognition of faith and constancy and hard work that I just tip my hat to all of you here today in this important announcement, and also let you know that we are not only intending to double the size of the facility or find an additional facility to do the same, but we need to get people to and from. And so I recognize that part of my homework assignment the last few weeks included, right? We've got at least eight passenger van for at least 8 children, and just know that that's on its way. Thank you, Supervisor Armiano, for your hard work on that as well. So thank you all very much. Congratulations on the outstanding day.
You know Larry, and he used to direct the Public Health Department, or CSAS, correct? And I said, well, no man wants me to say that I've known him any longer than 16 years. That's when I was getting out of jail and off the street myself. So it hasn't been that long. And so I have a great honor. I don't remember how we met. It's unbelievable. And Norma and I have been talking with each other all day since this morning. Just absolutely, we cannot believe that this is finally happening. It is like dreaming about something and planning and crying and fighting and screaming and all of those things, hoping that it can happen, and it's happening right now today. It's like our baby is being born, and it's so wonderful. And the history behind it is you've heard a bit about it. You know, I was a career prosecutor, and I specialized for a while in child sexual assault cases. And I saw what would happen with the victims of those cases. Some of the worst human behavior you've ever seen. The perpetrators being people who are in a position of trust with these children, violating them, and causing them as a result to become very vulnerable. And in many cases, as I personally witnessed, become vulnerable to those predators we call pimps. So those young women in particular would end up on the streets. And in the Bay Area, I learned with one case in particular that I was prosecuting, end up on the streets of San Francisco. So Norma, I remember how we met, because I was trying to find this victim with my inspector out there, and then I just looking into, well, where could she be? Where would she be? And realized that we really didn't have much to offer as a place for her to go. And so in the process of looking for where could and would she be, I heard repeatedly, you've got to meet this woman, Norma Hotaling. She is doing the work of representing women, girls who have been exploited, sexually exploited. She has been doing this work tirelessly for years and years and years, being an advocate and being a person who has empowered these girls and women. And that's how we met. And so then we talked, I was in the city attorney's office at the time, and we talked about what are we going to do to deal with this, because we've got to do something. And so we said, okay, you know, because this is who we are in our background, let's form a coalition. So we sat down on a yellow piece of paper, writing up, so who's going to be in our coalition? And what will we call it? And we need to come up with a catchy name, and we thought about a bunch of names. Remember this, Norman? So then we decided the Coalition to End the Exploitation of Youth. And we're like, no, that's C. So let's figure something else out. Ask me more oomph. So then we decided kids, the Coalition to End the Exploitation of Seek. We thought this was really neat because then it would sound kind of like seek, you know, also seek out and you'll find. So that was our coalition. And who did we call? We called our friends. We called Sandra Hernandez. Because, you know, part of our coalition has to be about not just government and activists and community. We need access to resources and foundation and that level of legitimacy and support. We called the Department of Children, Youth, and Family. We called Janice Anderson Santos at the Department of Human Services. We called, now Judge Catherine Feinstein has been working on this issue for years. She and I have had many conversations where she said, you know, I need somewhere else to be able to send these kids because, Kamala, sometimes the reality is that these kids are on the street And the only thing I can do with them is make sure they're off the street, and sometimes my only option is YGC. But I got to get them off the street where they can be safe. Go forward, do it, and you've got our support. And you've got my support, is what Judge Feinstein said. So it was a cross-section of people from West Ed, which is a great nonprofit doing work around education, called up Arlene Ackerman from the school district, because education is a very important component of this. And so we formed this coalition on paper. And we had everybody committed. We needed to do something with our coalition. Everybody was committed. Well, let's go and talk to one of the power brokers in the city about this. So Norm and I walked down and knocked on Tom Amiano's office, who was then the president of the Board of Supervisors, knowing he had a history of working on issues affecting children and having a dedication in that regard. So we go into Tom's office, and you sit down, and Tom has great jokes, and so he tells his jokes, and then we started to talk about the issue. And immediately he said, "Oh, that's easy. Let's just have a task force. Let's create a task force." No, he said, "Let's have a hearing on this and expose it as an issue." And it was from that hearing where the coalition and all you members, and I'd ask you now to please just stand. I see, and from Larkin Street, Denise Albert started to realize. And we had that hearing, and from that, through a decree, through the Board of Supervisors, we created that task force to look into the issue. And literally, we wrote into the ordinance creating the task force that this group, this task force, would meet for 6 months only. Not go on and on and on. 6 months only. I was taskmaster about it. And we would meet and hash out our recommendations. And we came up with the recommendation that San Francisco needs a safe house. And in that recommendation, we talked about what it needed to be. Norma said the entire time, part of the problem with these youth is that they're judged by everybody. So part of their therapy and getting them out has to be to do it in a way that makes them feel they're not being judged. So we need peer-based support and counseling. Enter SAGE and the valuable staff at SAGE who knows how to deal with the population because it understands their experience. We need to have a strong educational component. That's why we have the school district and West Ed. We need to make sure we've got mental health services. We need to make sure we have things like acupuncture and things like that. And we need to have a place where they can go and most of all be safe and be secure. We had the police department as a partner, as part of the coalition to end the exploitations of kids because we said we also want to do it in a way that recognizes their circumstances and their experience and doesn't criminalize them. And we recognize as law enforcement, we're committed also to getting those youth off the street and making sure that they can be productive. And that's the kind of work we did and the recommendation that we made. We want a secure house. And then that's when we went to Barbara Garcia and she said, "I've got a house." And then you've heard how it went from there, and now we're finally going to open this house. And in city government, Tom knows he's one of the elder statesmen, forgive me, but one of the elder statesmen in city government. Things take a long time. I think this happened rather quickly. But our great mayor has committed, he and I have been talking down the front row, that next year in the budget, we're going to make it a point of having an allotment for another secure house. And in fact, I'd like the videotape from you cameras just to ensure that he remembers. But it is truly a community-wide effort, and I just thank you all for being so supportive from the beginning. It really came together, and we're putting San Francisco on the map on a very important issue, which is let's see these children who exist in the shadows. Yeah, they're not knocking on your door because they're not committing crimes against you. They're not hurting you, but they need to be seen. They need a voice to represent them, and they are absolutely capable of being productive, wonderful people with the attention that we're going to give them in the secure home and school. So thank you all for your support. Thank you.
She had a right to have a lot of opportunities. So she has been able to go to Korea and work with trafficked women and girls in Korea. She has decided to come back today and be a part of the opening of the Safe House. And with that, I'd like to introduce Jasmine. And for all the cameras that are on, this cannot be released to any affiliate outside of the Bay Area, any pictures, okay? Because she's living outside the Bay Area and she has started a life over there again, or over again there. Thank you.
Gosh, every time no one introduces me, I always start crying. Right now, I'm so happy to be here. A safe home for girls is like the most amazing thing that happened. Like years ago, when I got arrested for prostitution, sitting in juvenile hall for 2 months, sitting down with my probation officer, talking about where they're going to send me, where am I going to go. Going to court, they're fighting whether or not they're going to send me back to Oregon, whether or not they're going to keep me here, and find an appropriate placement for me. It was really overwhelming because I'm just like, I don't want to go to a group home. You sit there in juvenile hall, you hear all the stories about a group home. I've never been in one. And my first thing was, well, whatever they send me to, if I do one in 3 months, I'm running. And that's it. My probation officer found a transitional home for me, and I started going to Sage. And working with Sage, I always had to call them because I was always having problems with the placement that I had. They wanted to restrict me. They didn't want me to have phone calls. They didn't want to let me out to go visit people. They thought I was going to run. They didn't want to accept me because I was arrested for prostitution. And that was such a high risk for them. And Sage was always there supporting me. Calling up the person that ran the group home, telling them, you need to listen to her and what she needs from you guys right now. After I started working for Sage and working with the girls and realizing that, there really is not a place for them to go. And it's like bugging Norma, when you guys, what's going on with the safe homes? I need to see this happening faster. It's always on her about it. Helping out here and there with the task force, sitting down with Edgewood and talking about, these are things we need to have. They need to have nice stuff there. They can't have people. They need to be able to get out. Because these are things that are going to keep somebody there. There aren't, at that time, I noticed there were not too many people that seemed to care. They wanted to judge all of us that had been through that. They wanted to label us. Every time I went to court, it was her life of crime. And I was just like, I was only out there for a couple months, but it's not my life of crime. This isn't me. You're not looking at who I am. You're not listening to me. And now I'm seeing a lot of change. These girls are getting listened to. And this home this is what's gonna open up the doors for girls to have the lives that they really want. Nobody wants to live that life. Nobody wants to do stuff in that. It's just options. If you don't have options, that's no choice. I was doing an interview just a minute ago, and one of the guys asked me, what was your choice, kind of your choice to be there, why didn't you leave? And I'd explain, if there's no options, there's no choice. What were my options? What are these girls' options? All they know is that what their pimp tells them is you're worthless, nobody cares about you, and then they go out on the streets and the public looks at them and judges them, calls them whores and all other names, and throws stuff at them out of their vehicles, get the police. Not all of them are bad. That's some of the cool ones. But in general, they're pretty rude too. And they make some really rude comments to you. And being told that, and then going back to your parents and being told that over and over again, it's in their head. That's all you're ever going to be. You're not going to be worth anything. And to be able to go to a place where you're going to have a safe place to stay, you're going to have food on the table, you're going to have somebody that you're going to be able to talk to that understands because they've been there, not just understands because they read something about it. This is the most amazing thing. I'm so happy that Sage and Edgewood and everybody got together to do this. This is going to change the lives for a lot of girls. And I'm part of them, I've changed, but I'm still one of those girls. I was out there, and you know what, I'm not afraid to tell people that anymore. Because it's who I am, it's who I am and who I will be. And all of these girls, I want everybody to know, every single girl that's going to be in this home, that is going to be locked up, who is still out there, are the most amazing girls and boys that are out there. These are going to be the people that are going to be leaders. They've struggled through so much, and now we have this opportunity. We're going to have a place to stay. You don't understand how excited I am about this. Oh, you don't understand. going to have a home. It's a new start of a new life for them. And I want to thank everybody that was involved because you guys are saving people's lives.
Dr. Tom Holly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your patience. Yeah, this journey started with me on a tuna fish sandwich because I was a starving student and they had the best tuna fish sandwich. They had lunch. I ate lunch. So, you can't fight the war on an empty stomach. And this is really a journey of courage and honor, and that's not limited to those of us who helped the political food chain kick in. But as you can tell, to these young women and to the other children, many of whom have lost their lives and can't be here today, and we should always remember them. And they no more. We're saying never more. And as you know, behind every successful woman is another woman. So I tip my hat. So I was very excited, and I think the cupcake round was talking from the perspective of Jasmine, but as a successful adult, it was
For the safe house. And it includes great community leaders like Lynn Newhouse-Siegel, Carla D. Portillo, Libby Denenbaum, Angela Cavillo. And there will be a fund set up at the San Francisco Foundation, a donor-advised fund, and we're very thankful.
Okay, black Prius. We won't look about who's leaving. Okay, there we go.
Is also someone very, very special. We have many leaders that are coming out of SAGE, first as clients, then as staff, and giving back so much to the community and the community of women and girls. Sorry, going by a different name. I didn't know which one it was. And I've had the opportunity of travel Department of Children, Youth, and Families and advocate on behalf of children like herself and youth like herself. And she's an amazing woman. She's amazingly articulate, passion towards her work and her work at SAGE. And at this time, I'd like for all film and photographs to be turned off. And it's okay for audio and written print to continue. So with that, I'd like to say how proud I am to know her. Where is she? Oh, there's a camera going on right here.
So I would like to thank everyone for coming today. The reason I want the TV cameras off is because of the shame. But the main reason is not because of that, but because of fear. Fear of the pimps and predators. I'm empowered to tell my story because of the severity of the commercial sexual exploitation.
I'll thank everybody on behalf of Norma, myself, and everybody here. We're all in it together. Drinks and cookies, please. Go hydrate yourself. Thank you again.